19 posts in 1 week in March, then nothing until June, then 14 posts across 9 days. That is a publishing calendar I pulled off a site about an hour before deciding not to buy anything from it, and it told me more than every metric I had paid for. A site that publishes when somebody has something to say does not publish like that. A site that publishes when somebody pays does. Two directions on the same question. People only ever discuss one half of this. The first half is obvious. You are about to spend money on a placement and you want to know what you are buying into. The second half is the one that catches people. A link turns up pointing at your site from a domain you have never contacted, and you want to know whether that domain is one a search engine already has a file on. You cannot ask that second site for their numbers. There is no conversation, no seller waiting to send you a media kit. All you have is the site itself sitting there in public. So the skill is reading a site code of its own pages with nobody to ask what this is not. I have a separate walkthrough on vetting a seller before you pay them, and that one is a procedure. The 4 numbers to pull, the terms to get into an email, the 10-day check after the money moves. It assumes you are already talking to somebody who wants your business. This is the other thing. No relationship, no quote to argue over, and it works on sites that would never sell you anything, which is the case the seller vetting procedure cannot reach. If you are buying an entire site rather than a slot on one, this read is one line item inside a much longer diligence list. Separate subject, why you should discount what I am about to say, worth putting up front rather than burying it. I sell placements. A do-follow slot on a comparison article on one of my own properties went for $250 this year on a 12-month term, so I am describing my own category. Every tell in this list is one somebody could point at a page of mine and ask me to account for. I think that makes the list better rather than worse, because I know which of these I can defend and which of them would make me uncomfortable. Tell 1 what the site links out to. The strongest signal by a distance is the outbound profile. Not what links to the site, what the site itself points at. Pull every outbound link, drop the internal ones, group the rest by destination domain, and read the list from the top. An ordinary site linking out editorially points at sources, documentation, a study, a news story, sometimes a competitor. A page factory points at commercial homepages, not articles on those domains, homepages. A law firm in one country, a dental practice in another, a betting site in a third, a document translation app in a fourth. The country spread is the part I weight hardest. A genuine publication builds relationships in the market it serves. A site handing commercial do-follow links into 11 countries across 4 industries chose those destinations for one reason, and that reason arrives by invoice. Outbound is also the tell hardest to dress up, because almost nobody bothers. Sellers polish their inbound numbers, since inbound is what buyers ask for. I have never once had a seller volunteer their outbound profile. I say that with some feeling. I ran the count on my own portfolio and got 15,321 outbound do-follow links against 16 inbound. Most of that was template junk, a footer credit and a plugin, but a crawler cannot separate those from sold links, and neither can you when you are looking at a stranger's site. So read the number as a question rather than a conviction. Tell 2, the publishing calendar. Back to the bursts, get the post dates, an archive page, an RSS feed, a sitemap, whatever the site exposes without effort. Sort them and look at the gaps rather than the volume. Somebody writing about a subject they care about produces an uneven but continuous line. Weekly for a stretch, a quiet month because work got busy, then back to it. A site publishing on payment produces clusters, 4 pieces in 2 days, 7 weeks of silence, 6 pieces in a week. Orders arrive in batches and get fulfilled in batches, and the archive keeps the receipt. Check the clusters against the ordinary business calendar too. Quiet through late December, busy in the second week of January, is a publishing schedule behaving like an invoicing schedule. Ship to run, hard to argue with, and my second most trusted after outbound. Tell 3, the bylines. Open the author archive. Most platforms expose one whether the site links to it or not. A real publication has a handful of names carrying most of the output, plus a tail of contributors with 2 or 3 pieces each. A page factory has 40 names with 1 post apiece. The byline was created for the article was created for the link, and neither has any reason to exist the following week. Read a few of the bios while you are in there. A genuine contributor's bio has a job and an employer in it. The manufactured ones say the author is passionate about technology and travel, above a photograph you can find on 3 other sites. Now the caveat, because this tell is weaker than it looks. Plenty of legitimate sites run a contributor program and end up with a long tail of people who wrote once and never came back. I have that on my own sites. Tell 4, the Write For Us page. My favorite of the 5 because it comes close to self-reporting. Read the requirements and ask who that page was written for. A real editorial guideline talks about the reader, what our audience already knows, the angles we have covered to death, what we will not run, how to pitch first. A rate card with the price removed talks about the link. One do follow link permitted in the body, no gambling, adult or crypto, minimum 800 words, original, not published elsewhere. Links must not point at direct competitors. We reply within 24 hours. Every clause in that second list manages a transaction. None of them is about a reader. It is a price list with the number lifted out, and the number arrives in the reply. The tell inside the tell is the turnaround promise. Editorial teams do not commit to reading your unsolicited draft within a day. Sales teams commit to replying within a day. Tell 5, topical scatter, the one everybody leads with, which is why I have put it last. Take a single month of posts, personal finance, dog grooming, and online casinos inside the same 4 weeks. That is a warehouse with categories bolted on the front. I rank it 5th because it throws the most false positives. General interest blogs exist, and the competent operators fixed this years ago. The page factory is actually worth worrying about, a single niche, and will pass a topical scatter check without breaking stride. This test catches the lazy end of the market and stops there. None of these prove anything. Here is the part that separates a useful check from a witch hunt. Not one of the 5 means anything by itself. Legitimate sites take guest contributions. I publish other people's work, and I intend to keep doing it. Legitimate sites go quiet for 2 months because the owner had a baby. Legitimate sites accumulate a bizarre outbound profile from a widget installed in 2019 that nobody has looked at since. So the question is never whether a tell is present, it is how many stack on the same domain and whether each one has a boring explanation you can go and find. One tell is noise. 2 buys the site another 10 minutes of your attention. 4 or 5 together on a domain with no visible audience, and you have your answer. If you pay for backlink data, the vendor spam score belongs in that stack as one more input, never as the verdict. That number describes a neighborhood rather than a site, and I have argued about it at length elsewhere. When the link found you, the inbound direction deserves its own minute because the right response is different. A link appears in your referring domains from a domain you have never heard of. Run the same 5 checks on it. If it comes back clean, do nothing. That is correct for the overwhelming majority of them. If it comes back looking like a page factory, still mostly do nothing. The reflex is to reach for a disavow file, and that reflex is usually wrong. I learned that one slowly. I pulled 50 flagged domains off my own profile expecting to find somebody attacking me, and found scraper mirrors and sites republishing an RSS feed with the links left intact. The site had simply been online a while. What the inbound check is actually for is the delta. Run it on new referring domains once a month. 1 page factory a month is weather. 30 inside a fortnight, all landing on the same page with the same anchor, is an event, and an event is worth an afternoon. The distinction I would defend, so where does this leave somebody who sells links for a living? The line I draw is whether the site would have published the piece anyway. On my own properties, the test is one question: would this article exist here if nobody had paid for it? If the topic is one I already cover, the piece is one I would have commissioned, and the link inside it points at something a reader on that page would plausibly want, then money changing hands has not altered the artifact. A page factory fails at the first clause because the article would not exist. The article is packaging, the link is the product, and everything wrapped around it is there to make the delivery look like publishing. That distinction survives the obvious objection, which is that both parties took money. Yes, they did. So does a magazine running an advertorial, and nobody calls a magazine a link farm over it. The question is whether there is a publication underneath the transaction. You can check it from outside, roughly. Find 3 articles on the site carrying no commercial link at all and read them properly. If they are competent and about the subject, there is something real under there. If you cannot find 3, there is not. That test has cost me money. I have turned down inquiries that would have paid because the piece they wanted did not belong on the site and the person went and bought it somewhere else the same week. That somewhere else is the problem this whole list is about. What none of this can do? The limit stated plainly. None of this tells you what a search engine actually thinks. I am inferring a category from footprints left on the surface. Nobody outside those companies sees the internal classification, and anybody selling a tool that claims to read it is selling a guess with a logo on it. I also cannot show you the counterfactual. I have never bought 2 placements on 2 sites identical in every way except these tells and watched what each one did over a year. Rankings move for a dozen reasons at once, and the sample size is 1 buyer with 1 budget. So what this is, honestly, is a way of forming a view in 20 minutes instead of an afternoon from somebody who has stood at both ends of the transaction. Judgment with evidence attached, not a measurement. One thing I will say with confidence. People who run this check buy fewer bad placements than people who read an authority score and wire the money. I have not yet met anybody who ran it and thought the 20 minutes were wasted. The crawl I run and the exact outbound grouping are at theseodesk.com. Subscribe for more on link below.